Well, welcome in once again, everybody, to another exciting edition of the 19th Hole Podcast for Golfers. I'm your host, Dennis Silvers, coming to you live from the beautiful Rigel Studios right in the heart of Las Vegas, just moments away from the world-famous Las Vegas Strip, which, by the way, is getting people and people and people and more people. I mean, Vegas is pretty well opened, everybody, so wherever you're watching this, if you're anticipating a trip, you want to come to Las Vegas, we are open for business. So we'd very much like to welcome you here. Weather here is fantastic as usual. We're getting into summertime. It's getting a little warm, which is the way I like it, but nonetheless, don't let that be a deterrent to you. Speaking of warm, we've got a great guest on the show for you today. He's in an area of the country where it does get warm. He's in a beautiful area of the country, somewhere in New Orleans. We'll let you, outside of New Orleans, we'll let you know a little bit more about it. But he's a great guy, both on and off the golf course. I've known him for a lot of years, and he's a gentleman. He's got a wonderful family, and he knows his stuff when it comes to golf, as you're going to find out all through the show. By the way, no matter where you're watching us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, Google app, make sure to give us a like, and also please subscribe to that channel, because we always like to see that. And if you got any suggestions, just write them down. Good show, bad show. We'd like to see this person. We'd like to see that person. So we'd love to get your feedback. Anyway, let me bring up my good friend Brandon Stooksberry, aka Stooks. And Brandon is the head golf professional at the historic Metairie Country Club just outside of New Orleans, Louisiana. Before his current position, Brandon was the director of instruction at the Idle Hour Club in also beautiful Macon, Georgia, and also was the director of instruction right here in Las Vegas at the PGA Tour Academy at TPC Las Vegas. Brandon is also a top-selling author of 2 books, the Wedge book, which was his first, and now the Putter book, which is now available, and this is what we're going to be talking about. It is a fantastic book. Definitely recommend you have it in your golf library, and of course we're going to talk extensively about that. Brandon has been ranked by Golf Digest as one of the top 10 instructors in his state and part of the best young teachers list. He's also, by the way, a 3-time PGA Teacher of the Year, so he's got a lot of cred, as they would say. So right now, let's welcome my good friend Brandon Stooksberry. And hey, bud, glad you took time to make it on the show. I know you're busy with your relatively new position.
Dennis, thanks so much, man. You said it had been years. I didn't realize we're sneaking up on 15 years.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah, it's getting pretty close anyway. And so it's been a while, but thanks so much for having me on. And I must say, the gold microphone is very Las Vegas-esque. So I like that.
We got it out especially for you. I got to tell you, that's great. You look great too, Brandon. So obviously, living, working down south, where we're originally from, is a grain with you, obviously.
Yeah, it is. It's been a fun ride. I had a good 7.5 years in Georgia, and then this opportunity came up, and what we're sitting on here is really something special. We're under some construction. I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but it's really a great opportunity. And my wife's hometown. She grew up here, and so it's really special to be able to bring our kids back and show them the culture and experience that with them. So we're excited.
Metairie is very historic, and it's a wonderful, wonderful facility. What would you say is the highlight or one of the outstanding features, Brandon, about that club?
So I'm going to give you a couple of things. A lot of people don't know, but back in the early 1800s, New Orleans was one of the most powerful cities in America, right, in the new country, because of the cotton trade and the access to the Mississippi River. And so lots of wealth in this town in its sort of infancy. And Metairie was actually founded by members of National Golf Links in New York.
Huh,
And
I
they
had
brought
no idea.
they brought Seth Rayner, which is a very famous architect, down from up north, and they brought him down here to design and build a golf course. And so we were built in 1922 and have lots of incredible history, given the fact that we were designed by Seth Rayner, which puts us in rare air, if you will. He didn't do many golf courses in the United States.
No, he did not.
And the fact that we're under construction and rebuilding the entire facility to take us back to our Rayner roots makes it even more special. So
That's
lots of
awesome.
history. It's a cool.
Very, very cool place. Let me start off and ask you this, Brandon. You know, with all the components of the game of golf, what seemingly got you interested in the short game, as you have written about in your 2 books, as opposed to another part of the game? What's the attraction?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. It actually started in Las Vegas. And so my position with the Tour Academy in Las Vegas, we did about 100 days a year of golf school. Now, you don't see much of that model anymore, but that model was where, you would a group of people would fly into Las Vegas and they would take 3 days, 4 days of golf instruction, and it was very immersive. You would literally spend 8 to 3 every day working on golf. And so a lot of information, and we now know that probably isn't the best way to consume instruction, information.
Right.
But it was a very popular model, particularly in a city like Las Vegas, that was a destination, right? And so people would tie in vacation with golf instruction. I found out really quickly that I could get people better, fastest, if you will, working on short game. And the reason I think that was the case, I didn't know it at the time, but it doesn't require tour level talent to get better at a short game.
Good point.
If you want to hit 300 yards, that requires some talent that, frankly, most of us don't have access to, right? You don't have to have tour level talent to be a better putter or a better chipper or a better wedge player. And so that's really what first got me interested. I wanted to be better at short game because I was a better teacher when I was teaching short game.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
And I started research, and what I found was that there wasn't a whole lot out there. The more I tried to research and look to get better, I didn't find the information. And so that told me that there might be an opportunity in the marketplace to put out some information. And that's kind of how the interest in short game came about.
No, that's well said, Brandon. And of course, I've always spoken about it for years. That is the scoring part of the game. And if you could knock it close all the time and make putts, your scores are going to be a lot better. A lot of golf pundits, Brandon, say a person could be taught to be a good ball striker, okay? But that doesn't necessarily translate into becoming a great putter. What do you say about that?
Well, there's 2 things I will say to that. I think they're right. I wouldn't be a very good teacher if I didn't believe that everybody could be taught, right? And so I think that's true. That's an accurate statement that everybody can be taught to be a good ball striker. The problem is the complexity of the golf swing and the speed of the motion require a lot of practice, right? In addition to your body being right and the time you have to spend and all of those things, it requires a huge investment to get any return. Right. That's where short game differs. Short game doesn't require near the investment to get more of a return in terms of lower scores, right? And so 70% of your shots are spent less than a full swing, whether you shoot 65 or 105.
Right.
And so if you spend more time on an area that makes up more of your score and it doesn't require quite the investment, then there's way more return to lowering your handicap in that regard.
Absolutely.
So,
it makes perfect sense.
I think that's an accurate statement, but there's just more to it that you don't hear the pundits really talk about.
That's true. That's true. When people learn to play golf, and I'm interested in your answer on this, if they're new, for some reason, they seemingly, Brandon, seem to develop a certain aspect of their game better than the rest of the components. As an example, somebody new to the game will all of a sudden find himself being a pretty damn good iron player. Others might develop a better part of their game, in short game or off the tee. Why do you think that is, that one particular facet of the game seems to be more outstanding than the rest of their game?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so you're right, that absolutely happens. And here's how I would answer that. Each aspect of the game sort of requires a different type of skill, right? In some aspects, we use our hands more, and some we use our body more, and some we use both together. And I think the way people learn by trial and error or by input of information, whether that's from a coach or a teacher or watching the Golf Channel or your podcast or wherever they consume information, they tend to move in certain ways that lend itself more to that particular skill, right? For example, if someone has, I'm making this up, right? If in the golf swing they have a tendency to have their chest moving backwards as they hit it, that would make them a terrible iron player. But that's exactly what you need to do when it comes to hitting a driver.
Correct.
Right? And so the mistake that they're making with an iron actually turns out to be somewhat of an asset in a driver. And so I think that's how that happens. People just move in different ways and they learn in different ways, and you see it apply to different skills, kind of like a puzzle as they learn.
That's a very, very good answer, and that's a very interesting way to look at it. All right, last question before we take our first time out. What, in your opinion, Brandon, and you work with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that have come to you for lessons, what, in your opinion, is the most common problem with amateur players when it comes to putting? Would it be a bad grip? Would it be the wrong type of putter? Would it be a bad stroke? They can't read greens for the proper speed. What is it? What have you found out?
Yeah, so if for those of your listeners who have read the putter book, and for those that will read the putter book, you're going to find that I cover 3 skills, right? That any good putter has control over in no particular order. Can you pick your right spot? Well, that's green reading. Can you roll the ball at the spot that you've chosen? I would call that start line control. And can you control the speed, right? If you have those 3 skills, right, then you're going to be a good putter. You're not going to make every putt, because putting's hard, but you're going to be a good putter. I would tell you that there are 2 big errors that I see most people make, regardless of skill level. Typically, people make errors in setup, whether that be grip or posture or where their eye line is relative to the ball, that influence motion in a negative way, right? Or they have, or I should say, they have terrible speed control. And those 2 issues, especially if there are both and they combine together, means that 2 of your skills, speed control and start line control, which is affected by bad setup, are dysfunctional. And if you have 2 out of the 3 skills that are dysfunctional, you're not going to be a very good putter.
True.
And so I would say that those are the 2 biggest areas I see day in and day out.
True. Very good answer. Real quick, and I love asking short game teachers this question. It's like the chicken and the egg thing, Brandon. Is it speed or is it line? What do you put the emphasis on?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I'll see if I can explain this in a way that's not too complicated for the listeners. At the end of the day, it's both. And I know that's not the answer that most people are looking for, but if you imagine the curve of a putt, right, as it's going in, it's not a single line that makes the ball go in. It's actually a sort of a cone, right? Because the ball could have more speed and go in on the low side of the hole, or high side of the hole, excuse me, or have less speed and curl in on the low side of the hole.
Right.
But that's a zone. That's kind of an area that's shaded, if you will, where multiple speeds and multiple lines could be employed and mixed together to make the putt. And so neither are more important than the other. The best answer I can give to you is that both are very important. And so you have to be able to read the green to a reasonable level, and you have to be able to control the speed to a reasonable level. More importantly, you have to be good at combining those 2.
Right. And that is,
in that zone.
That is the secret. Absolutely. All right. I'll tell you what, we're going to step away, take a short break, and bring you a couple of great commercial spots. When we come back, we'll have more with our very, very great guest, Brandon Stooksberry from Metairie Country Club, just outside of Louisiana. You also stay with us. We're back with you right after this.
Golfers at every level strive to hit the ball like a tour player, setting the club perfectly at the top, storing all the energy as they unwind and their club head approaches the ball, striking it flush at impact and staring it down as it explodes off the club towards the target. Introducing Precision Impact. Precision Impact is the single tool that will accelerate that process and get anybody striking the ball with complete command. Unlike any other product, Precision Impact is designed to keep the hands quiet and prevent the fatal flipping or scooping of the hands. This amazing product will actually reprogram your brain to keep your hands in the perfect textbook position. Precision Impact will soon have you hitting the most crisp, consistent shots of your life. As you start your backswing, you should hear several clicks as your wrist folds properly for a perfect set at the top of your swing. From there, allow your arms to fall as you aggressively rotate through the ball, knowing your Precision Impact will keep your hands and club head in the ideal position. Order now at PrecisionImpactGolf.com and never look back.
Hey golfers, I've been a golf talk show host for a long time, and I've been playing golf even longer. Being in golf media, I've had the chance to play every ball ever made. I've tried them all. Well, my search is finally over because I found the best ball I have ever played with, and more golfers are finding the same thing. I started playing with the Elixir golf ball made by Encore Golf. Encore Golf has revolutionized both their golf balls, the Elixir or the Avant 55, or the brand new Vero X1, to where the performance of either will simply blow you away. It did me. If you're looking for better performance and durability with your ball, Encore Golf has it. Don't just take my word for it. Check them out at EncoreGolf.com and you'll become convinced, as I am, the first time you tee it up with Encore. It's the best performing ball for the price. Go to EncoreGolf.com and see for yourself. Your scores will love you for it. That's ONCORE Golf.com. All right, welcome back, everybody, to more of the 19th Hole of Podcast for Golfers. I'm your host, Dennis Silvers, and wherever you're watching the show, please do me a favor. Remember to like and share the show. We would appreciate it very, very much. Talking with my good buddy, Brandon Stooksberry, who is a top-selling author. We're talking about his new book, The Putter Book, and in fact, seriously, it's a great book. If you want to learn how to roll your rock a hell of a lot better than you do, you need to get this book. His first one, The Wedge, and I'm not talking about a salad here, was also a great book on the short game. So follow it up with The Putter Book. Brandon, what can you do as a top teaching professional to, how can I put this, to make putting more sexy, so to speak, so golfers spend more time on the damn putting green?
I tell you what, Dennis, if I can answer that question, you and I both be retired. I have enough to share. There's a lot at play there, right, between the major manufacturers and the tour players and all the attention for years now that has been on distance, right?
Right.
And of us that have been in the profession keep saying, it's going to have to stop eventually. It's going to have to stop, but it just keeps going. And so, who would have thought that we would have had somebody like Bryson DeChambeau trying to hit it further than anybody on earth, and actually achieving maybe that goal in a competitive golf event. And so who knows where it's going to stop, but we're going to need a lot of help from a lot of people in the industry if we're going to sort of shift that focus. Now, excuse me, I can make all the arguments in the world about why it's easier to get better at putting. It's faster to get better at putting. There's actually more evidence that has a direct correlation and benefit to the bottom line.
Right.
Look, if I just got you to have less 3-putts, and by you, I mean the average golf listener out there, if you just reduce the number of 3-putts you had in a typical round from wherever it is to 1, you would save 2 to 3 shots off your handicap like that.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Tell me how long it would take you working on hitting your driver further to be able to accomplish a 2 to 3 shot drop. Right?
Well, right.
And so all we can do is continue to shout it from the rooftops and write books and do podcasts and try to spread the word, and hopefully eventually people will start to listen.
Is there a way that you can change the minds of your students and other people that reach out to you for help? That's all I want to do is get to the range, pound balls, get the driver out, see how far they can hit it. And you go, no, that's really not where you're going to score. That's really not where you need the help. Is there a way you can effectively communicate that to them, Brandon?
Yeah, it just takes some time. And so I think by the time most people end up in front of me, meaning they've researched, they've reached out, they've booked time, they've agreed to pay my hourly rate, right, which is not small. By that time, they've sort of reached a point where they're willing to listen most of the time. Not everybody, but most of the time. And so really, most people, I think, just don't understand. They just don't know, right? Because the only information that they've had inputted are those same people that are telling them that distance is the difference maker and that distance is easy to get, driver or whatever. And so once you sort of have a conversation and break down with them how the percentage of shots that are made up and how putting represents 40% of their score, when you add short game into it, it's another 30 to 35% of your score, then that becomes a lot easier. Because by the time they're in front of me, they're willing to listen.
Right. They should be. Well, I'm glad to hear that that you did raise your rates. What'd you go from $10 to $15 an hour now? I mean, that's
something like that. I keep trying to find what to get. The 20 is the magic number, but I'm
Brandon, how does a player figure out what type of putter is best for him or her? Is it just the style of putter, the weight, a certain type of grip, markings on the putter? What do you do? What's your advice for them to figure out what is good for them?
Yeah, that's a huge question. So let me see if I can try to answer that. There are 2 schools of thought out there. One school of thought says that it really doesn't matter where your eyes are relative to the ball. We will get a putter that helps you see square when you set up. Square, I mean, when you rotate your head and look down the line, you see a straight line to the hole, right? And so you get into really long or really short putters, you get into different shapes and different lines on the head and all kinds of things, trying to give you a crutch to help you see square. That's one school of thought. And I'm not here to bash that school of thought or tell you it's wrong, but that's one way to do it. Right. I don't look at it that way. I am the other school of thought that says if we can get your eyes in the right spot relative to the ball to where when you swivel your head, you see square, then the style of putter, the shape of putter, the lines on the head, the things of that nature become more preference than they become a necessity. Right? And so I find that I have more luck with people if I teach them that way, and then they have the ability to use whatever putter sort of looks good to them or they feel confident in. Now, the 2 things that are non-negotiable are length and head weight. And those 2 things go together in the world of club fitting. That's a much larger conversation. But the point is, when you get your posture and your eyes where they're supposed to be, and you get set up the way you're supposed to be set up. I go over all this in the wedge book on how to do this, or you could go find a qualified putter instructor to tell you. Then that will set the length of the putter. And then once you know the length, the head weight should match that length. Now, I'm leaving out a lot of the in-between of that conversation, but that's really the overall view of how that should go. Well, so if your eyes are right and the length is right, then the rest is personal preference.
That brings me to my next question. So your answer was absolutely perfect. Everybody applauds and they say, you've got, if you get fitted for a set of golf clubs, it's really going to help you as a player. And I buy into that to some degree. Does the same hold true getting fitted for a putter, Brandon, or could people just take something off the rack, so to speak, or out of the barrel? And if they have a good enough stroke, if they understand what they're doing well enough, they can be a good putter without being fitted.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways I'm going to answer that. The first is the brutal, honest truth of it, right? This is probably not what I'm supposed to say on a podcast. Most people aren't good putters and don't know what they're doing, right? And don't fall into that category. Most people need help with putting, and that's why they're looking for a new putter, right? And so the second way I'll answer that is I would argue, or I could make a compelling argument, that club fitting and putting is even more important than it is in full swing, and here's why. Because the full swing has a lot of length in the swing, right? We swing the club a long way from the ground all the way up and over our head and all the way back to the ball and all part of the body. And so we have time and space to sort of make up for errors. And what I mean by that is if I set my feet, this is going to sound crazy, but work with me here. If I set my feet 45 degrees open to my intended target, right? But my shoulders were square and you gave me enough length and time in the backswing, I could reroute the golf club to get the golf club to swing where I wanted it to. I don't have that time in putting. The putter's only moving like 2 feet, right? So an error in setup tends to be way harder to overcome than an error in setup in the full swing. A bad putter fit has a huge impact on your setup. So if the putter you have is too long for you or too short for you, then it puts your eyes in a wrong position, and now everything is sort of out of whack, and you don't have the time or the length in the swing to make up for that. And so I think it's even more important in putting than it might be in full swing because of those things.
I agree with you. That's well said also. All right, stay tight, Brandon. We're going to be right back with you. We're going to step away, take another short break, bring you some great commercials from some of our great sponsors. And when we come back, we'll continue with Brandon Stooksberry. So stay with us. We're back.
One of the buzzwords happening in golf is the word lag. You hear it all the time, but what is it, and how do I get it? Lag simply is the loading of the club to help produce tons of power in your golf swing. Up until now, getting lag into your swing has been very hard. Introducing the Lag Shot, a brand new proven training aid being praised by some of the leading PGA Tour instructors across the globe. This practice aid trains your hands, arms and body how to make a powerful, efficient golf swing with an amazing amount of lag. Lag Shot is a 7-iron length club with the same loft and lie with a whippy, flexible blue shaft and a beautiful jet black club head. After you master the Lag Shot, your game will change forever with a stress-free swing, more power and more distance with lower scores every time you play. Go to lagshotgolf.com and you'll see why this truly is becoming the #1 training aid in golf. Visit lagshotgolf.com. As golfers, we want instant gratification when it comes to a better golf swing and playing better golf. Impossible, you say? Not anymore. Golf Boost Artificial Intelligence, AI, has developed and patented the most advanced swing analysis technology in golf. Simply, the algorithms detect your body position and then analyze your golf swing using their artificial intelligence technology. The AI captures all the relevant data from your swing video and then presents you a personalized lesson. Golf Boost AI is the ultimate swing analysis and virtual instruction system for golfers of all ages and abilities. This sophisticated software takes into consideration your height and build, playing level, and returns the ideal solution for your swing. Bottom line, Golf Boost AI is an incredibly convenient and cost-effective tool for golfers to improve their swing. Go to golfboost.com and check it out. The app is free to download and try. Visit golfboost.com today.
welcome back, everybody, to the Best Damn Golf Podcast on the air, known as the 19th Hole Podcast for Golfers. We are going to start talking about the putter book with our special guest, Brandon Stooksberry. Brandon, before we get into the book specifically, with all of the information available for golfers today, great books like yours, CDs, online lessons, YouTubes, magazines, whatever. Why the hell aren't people getting much better on the amateur level?
You really aged yourself by saying CDs there, for the record.
You're right.
So, unfortunately, the answer to that question isn't very sexy. People usually aren't willing to put in the amount of work it requires. And let me paint that picture using a different sport. Okay, most of us out there are right-handed, but whichever hand you write with, I want you to imagine dribbling a basketball and running down the court and shooting a layup. Or I'll go even simpler than that. I'll go writing. Right, if you write with your right hand or your left hand. Now imagine that you are going to try to learn to do that with the other hand.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine how long it would take you to be comfortable, proficient, and legible in your writing with your left hand.
Wow.
Now involve your whole body and move it at 85 miles an hour. Right? It's really complex and it's really hard. And frankly, most people just either aren't able because of the resources of time or whatever with their families or their job, or they're not willing, or some combination of the both, to put in the work that usually is required to really change a motion pattern.
Right.
Which is the same thing as changing your handwriting from your right hand to your left hand, right? That's a motion pattern, right? Another example would be, imagine changing the keys on a keyboard. Right? We all have the pattern of motion that we learned to move our fingers wherever the keys are, and we don't even think about it when we type. Now imagine I gave you a keyboard and the keys were all jumbled up. You'd have to go through that process of learning again and think about how long it took you to learn where the keys were and learn how to type. And again, now involve your whole body at 85 miles an hour. And so it's just really hard, Dennis. It's a hard sport. It's a hard, complex motion. And most people just don't give it enough time to ever really make fundamental changes that show up on the golf course, much less under any sort of competitive stress. And I don't just mean tournament play. When you tee it up on a Saturday with your buddies in a $2 Nassau, that's as much pressure as a tour player feels.
Totally.
He's teeing up in an event, right?
Totally. That's exactly right.
That's the unfortunate part about it. It's just a hard game. But most people just don't put enough time or effort.
I think most golfers and most people here, they're looking for that instant gratification. And like you say, this is a hard damn game. It just takes some time. Speaking of hard.
Yeah. Hang on one second. If I will, I need to say something, because I don't want your listeners to get the wrong idea. I'm not saying you can't get better if you're not willing to put in hours and hours and hours and hours of work. Okay. Please don't misunderstand. But it just takes longer than most people think.
Yeah.
Right. I wish we could remove the word or the phrase, I'm going to take a lesson, from our vernacular. Right. Now, this sounds self-serving because I'm a coach and it sounds like a way to try to talk everybody into taking multiple lessons. I am, but it's not for the reason you think. It's not so I can eat better at night. It's because that's what it takes. Right? Imagine trying to learn to write with your left hand and going to take a handwriting lesson. One lesson.
Ain't gonna work.
Right? It just doesn't work. And so I'm not saying you can't get better if you're not willing to put in hours and hours and hours. I'm just saying consider that it takes longer than you think.
That's very, very, very true. Speaking of taking longer, what was the impetus for writing this book? I know that the other one, The Wedge, had great success, and this is a natural follow-up, but how long did it take you to do this?
Well, impetus is a real big word for a redneck hillbilly from East Tennessee, but I think I know what that means. And so it was all about me trying to continue the story. Okay, the wedge book blew me away with the success it had, and I don't say that to brag. I just wasn't expecting the the reception it would have in the golf, right? And it blew me away. I mean, I never dreamed that it would reach number one on the bestseller list, and I certainly didn't think it would stay there for over 6 years at number one, right? And so my co-writer, Matthew Rudy, and I kind of had a discussion, and based on the success of the wedge book, we felt like that was a pretty good indicator that the style of book and the style of design and the content and the way it was presented might have a really good place in the market. And so it was a natural sort of next step to include putting. I may go back later and add maybe a second level of information to the wedge book, things that I didn't cover in the first one, that I had reason for not covering the first time around, but now that it's out and the world knows about it, might be worth going back. But the putter book was a very natural next step. And so it took me a little longer to get it out than I probably should have. I probably should have come out with it a couple of years after the wedge book went live. It took me 5. But that's on me. I waited a little longer than I should have, but that was sort of the impetus, as you say, for why we wanted to do it. We just felt like it made sense and the market wanted it.
Right. No, I get it. All right. Hang with me one more. I want to talk about this before we finish up and let people know where they can get it and stuff. But we're going to step away and take a look at Adam Bazalgette from Scratch Golf Academy in Florida with his weekly swing tip of the week. Stay with us.
Hi, Adam Bazalgette here, founder of Scratch Golf Academy, with another game improvement tip for the 19th hole podcast for golfers. Today we're going to look at dreaded word shanks. I'm not going to try to duplicate one here off top. I think I could probably hit one, but I don't want to do that. So let's talk about it. Obviously a shot off the heel. First thing, I'm going to give you several causes, and you might check this relative to your habits, but then I'm going to give you a drill that I think will really make a huge difference to you, kind of wash out the poison of this thing no matter what your tendency is. So reasons you could shank the ball, other than just the random shank every once in a while we could all hit, but reasons someone might have a pattern, less common but excessively in to out. If that club gets stuck behind you, often the player's balance is moving towards the ball. It's going to be swinging too much out away from you through impact. Obviously that can run the heel into the ball. Next cause is almost the opposite, believe it or not. If you're excessively out to in, and then it's not uncommon for someone to pull in and actually hit it off the toe, but it's equally plausible when you start to get too far away from your body to nip it off the heel. But you should sort of be able to tell whether you're a sweeper and a drawer of the ball or a big deep divot left person, which of those two categories you might be in. Final one often is actually balance. People get their balance moving forward, crowd the ball and hit it in the heel. Do not, if that's you, get your weight way in the heels. Feels like it would help, but typically in motion you'll start to actually move more towards the ball. Now, regardless of which one you are, here's the thing I would do. What happens to people? They start hitting these shanks, they feel helpless, they feel trapped, if you like. You've got to feel a significant difference. Instead of getting over the shot, trying to hit a perfect shot and kind of cure it that way, try this drill. Set up to the ball. Club is behind the ball, just as though I'm going to hit a shot. Then take a swing and miss the ball somewhere between where it's sitting and your shoe tops. Miss it by several inches. So we start at the ball, swing, miss way to the inside. It's a drastic difference. First off, it gives you a sense of, hey, listen, I'm not in shank prison. I can swing closer to my body if I want to. It's easy to do. I've yet to meet the person that couldn't make a swing somewhere between their toes and the ball. So mentally it opens you up, but also it gives you a significant contrast to what you're doing, which is going and getting it in the heel. Do this drill, wash it out of there a little bit, open up, get a little freedom. You'll cure those shanks.
All right, we are back. We only got a couple of minutes left to spend with Brandon Stooksberry, and we're talking about the putter book. And Brandon was kind enough to send me a copy, and inside he wrote a very, very nice inscription. I don't know if you can see it or not. It said, "Here's your book, Dennis. Please send me a check for $14.95." So no, I'm kidding. It was very, very nice. Brandon, where can people find the book? Most importantly,
I had to give you the friend discount, Dennis. Normally it's 19.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
I sell the book in two ways. You can get it off Amazon if you'd like to get it that way, and the reason I do that is because it's available in digital form, so on a Kindle or through the Kindle app. You can also buy paperback from Amazon. If you want a signed copy, reach out to me on my website, and you can pay me direct, and I'll ship it straight to you after I inscribe it. And I won't request that you pay me an additional $14.95.
Oh, boy, you are a great guy. And Brandon's website, by the way, is Stooksberry Golf, STOOKSBURY golf.com. You can learn all about the books. You can learn all about Brandon, and I highly suggest that you do that. Anyway, my friend, the best of luck to you at Metairie. I know it's going to be awesome for you. I'd love to come down there and see you and tee it up with you maybe one day. And my best to your beautiful wife, Laura, and the family. And I know you're just going to do great down there, Brandon.
Well, Dennis, I miss you, man. I can't wait to plan a trip to Vegas. I haven't been back since I left.
I
Shame
know.
on me.
I know.
So I hope to get to see you face to face soon. But thanks so much for this. It's always a good time.
Always.
And I appreciate it, man.
We'll have you back sooner than later. Thanks, Brandon. Stay well. Take care of yourself. What a great guy, Brandon Stooksberry. Okay, we are going to take our last time out, and then we can come back and wrap up the show. So we'll be right back. When it comes to golf, I'm a man of few words, as you'll see. Looking for out-of-this-world technology in your golf ball? Encore Golf. Looking for exceptional performance and durability? Encore Golf. Looking for the best performing ball for the price? Encore Golf. Check them out at Encore Golf. That's ONCORE golf.com. Your scores will thank you.
Innovation begins at a single point. Elements, each with their unique character. Fire-forged steel creates unprecedented control. Chemistry delivers a touch so soft, combined to create a level of performance previously unimagined. Like magic, the Elixir, the new tour ball from Encore.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the 19th Hole Podcast for Golfers. We want to thank you. We want to thank all of our great sponsors and advertisers on the show. We hope you give them a real good look, because all of their products are just fantastic. So when you look at the show, give some serious consideration to using some of these things. I want to thank Brandon Stooksberry. And we've got another great show for you next week. So we will be here, same place, same time. So until then, so long, everybody.